What you're seeing here is gameplay of the Grand Theft Auto 3 alpha version. This is almost how GTA 3 originally looked, and if it wasn't for some major graphics and gameplay overhauls, this was almost the birth of the 3D GTA universe. Now, this alpha version has a lot more than just graphical changes, and a lot I think you'll all find very interesting. So today we're going to explore this and show you everything that could have been GTA 3. Firstly, right off the bat, you'll probably notice the graphics. The colours are much more vibrant and pixelated than the final version of the game. This is actually seen in some pretty rare pre-release screenshots of the game as well, where you can see this cartoon look was present about a year before the game's release. The buildings in this screenshot almost make it look like it's a 2D GTA game that's been modded to have 3D. The textures are all really low detail, and another thing you may notice is how the draw distance is drastically lower. I mean, I can barely see a block away, when in the final game that isn't the case. I mean, look at this, I can't even see a block away from me. Secondly, you'll notice how the crosshairs for weapons have changed massively. This has some kind of Dreamcast or N64 James Bond video game kind of feel to it. It's really outdated and probably a good idea that it was changed. But you'll also notice the map has, well, no map. The game just lets you figure stuff out, which I know the map now off by heart, so it's not too difficult for me. But I'm sure many of you will probably prefer the final version. And you'll probably notice the most glaring change of all when it comes to the heads-up display by the way your health is displayed by the minimap. The health is indicated down here besides the map in this rather ugly, interesting, colourful bar. It really breaks up the heads-up display in a negative way, because you're always looking from bottom left to top right to see the various different statistics. If you want to check how much ammo you've got to look all the way in the top right. If you want to see your health, all the way down in the bottom left, and it just doesn't really make much sense. But did you know that GTA 3 almost released only in bird's eye view? And it's true. In fact, the only reason GTA 3 released with a 3D mode or third person was because the developers working on the game at the time were about 50-50 torn on whether the game should be top-down view only like the older GTA games or 3D, meaning this game almost never released with a third person. The only reason the game actually came with a third-person mode is because the developers voted in a meeting that that would be the case. It's crazy to think what GTA would be like if we never got it in 3D. So firstly, the cop cars are all light blue, so what's this all about? Well, actually this is also something that was present in all of the trailers and pre-release footage of the game leading up to the September attacks in New York City in 2001. It wasn't until after these events shook the entire world that Rockstar decided to make a decision and distance the game from looking like New York City too much. So they decided rather than having the very similar police vehicle colours to New York City, they would then just change them to something a little more different. Another thing that's also really cool is that the sirens in the game, or the alpha version, sound a lot closer to New York City police cars than the final version. Oh, and also, what the hell are these tyre squeak sounds? These are awful. But that's not all that's changed. There's actually some map changes too that I found rather interesting. Firstly, when you start the game for the first time, you're instructed to drive to Luigi's. Let's see if you can spot the difference between these two clips. Well, in the alleyway seen here in the final game, you have to head through it and collect a wanted bribe in order to get to the other side. But in the alpha version of the game, this alleyway is nowhere to be found, making this part of the road more direct, and it was kind of jarring when I drove through this for the first time. Then there's the hospital, and as you can see, this alpha version has what looks to be more like a school than a hospital. I actually somewhat prefer this alpha hospital in my opinion, but something about it looks really eerie. It almost looks like a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater level rather than a GTA map. And also, Salvatore's mansion no longer has a wall surrounding it, making it way too easy to access, and in my opinion it makes it worse. I think it's definitely better when it has the wall around it. Oh my god, Claude's speed looks absolutely horrifying in this version of the game. So there's also a handful of beta vehicles still present in this alpha build that I want to show you as well. Firstly, there's this, the Infamous. The Infamous is one of the most famous GTA vehicles of all time, and this one looks a lot closer to its real life counterpart and sounds rather disgusting. although I will admit the idle sound effect does sound pretty cool. Then there's this, the infamous school bus. This thing has been subject to many theories over the years, with many speculating they were removed from the game because one mission had you trying to blow up children. I don't know whether this is actually true. Rockstar Games laughed about it as well in an Ask Us Anything back in 2011, I think, and judging by their reply, it doesn't sound like that was ever going to be a thing. One thing this alpha mod does have, though, is the removed Darkle missions. These Darkle missions are the reason why these theories and, shall we say, conspiracies all came to light. Because allegedly this character would give you lots of jobs where you had to kill innocent people and do lots of crazy things, and yes, I can confirm that that is the case. But none of his missions actually have you destroying any public school buses. What they do have you doing, however, is blowing up an ice cream truck to kill a large group of civilians, which is arguably just as bad. And there's no surprise this was removed from the game, along with a few other things because of the attacks in 2001 on New York City. I mean, just take a look at this, for example. I mean, come on.
In 3D, nur für PlayStation 2. GTA 3. Ab November im Handel.
But by using cheat codes, we're able to spawn in the Rhino tank, and you'll probably notice straight away this thing is also entirely different to its final version. This thing looks more like an APC tank compared to the actual tank we got in the final game. According to a few people, there's still a few beta copies of the game out there somewhere that remain playable on the PlayStation 2 version of the game, mainly copies that were available to play as demos at E3 in 2001, but of course no actual copies of the game have ever been properly documented, and therefore I guess this is the closest thing we'll ever get to witnessing the true nature of the beta or alpha versions of Grand Theft Auto 3. Now, it's hard to confirm how much out of this alpha version of GTA 3 is truly part of the alpha version of the game and what's been left to fan interpretation, because this version of the game I've been playing has been a recreation of what people would assume the alpha was like based on previous screenshots and data left within the game. With that being said, the GTA fanbase is growing year on year, and there's plenty of fans that never got to touch these games when they first released, and plenty of people who don't realise just how detrimental and important this game was to the future of the franchise. If it wasn't for this game, GTA 5 today and this upcoming GTA 6 would be entirely different. Just imagine what Vice City and San Andreas had have been like, and just how different they would have been if they too had have had these strange health indicators and strange cartoon graphics. Would they have taken the same route down the road later down the line, or would they have remained within that realm? I guess we'll never know.